He is one of the best talents I think the Championship has ever seen for my money.
They've relied on him, and he's delivered on quite consistently, and he's proven to be one of the most dangerous young players in the division right now.
This could very well be Blackburn's last chance at a good promotion push, couldn't it?
January is going to be a key time. If they can keep them and keep consistent, then I don't see why they can't push for the playoffs. But as you say, it does feel like a now or never situation for Rovers.
I'm not sure replacing Slavicia Jokanovic with Paul Heckingbottom is a wise move, but we'll wait and see on that front.
He turned out to be pretty hopeless, and his loan spell was cut short, but he's actually carved a pretty decent career out for himself. I think he's currently at Villarreal, who are a European title winner.
He's probably scored more goals in his best goal-scoring season than he has done in his past 5 or 6 seasons, which is the saddest bit of all, Justin. I feel like the player that we all know and love has gone, which is the most frustrating thing of all. Hence why I think he's the most frustrating player in Championship history. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Stopwatch. It's the Championship show with a little twist. It's 5 topics, a 2-minute timer, and 2 hosts. We're Ryan and Justin from the Second Tier Podcast, and let's get right into it. Justin, Slavicia Jokanovic has left Sheffield United. He's been replaced with Paul Heckingbottom. First off, your reaction to Jokanovic's sacking. Is it justified?
It's justified. I'm just a little bit surprised at the timing. I thought that he might get a few more games just to re-establish that 3 at the back formation that the players are certainly used to playing. I thought, as I say, he would have been given a little bit more time, but nonetheless, it is justified because they've looked absolutely hopeless going forwards, and they've relied very heavily on experienced players like Sharp and McGoldrick, whilst not getting the best out of the millions of pounds worth of players that they've got.
Pretty much spot on. He's had to move players around and put them in positions that they're not really used to playing. For example, Ryan Brewster playing on the right and also the left. Morgan Gibbs White has had to play on the wing for the majority of the season. Ben Osborne's someone I think as more of a wing back, centre midfielder, but he's been playing on the left wing, and Jokanovic likes to play with wingers. So that's been one of the main issues, but it also seems like he thought the squad wasn't good enough, whereas the Sheffield United board thought it was good enough. And it seems like they weren't getting on already, and he's only been in the job for a matter of months. So it seems like it was justified in the way that things just weren't working on the pitch. They didn't really have a clear identity, did they?
No, there was no clear style of play. There was an overuse or over rotation of playing squad. There was just too many players, as you mentioned, being chopped around into different positions. It wasn't ideal for anyone. It's probably the right time for him to move on.
Heckingbottom, good replacement.
I don't know. He knows the club. That's the only positive I'll spin on that.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that. I'm not sure replacing Slavicia Jokanovic with Paul Heckingbottom is a wise move, but we'll wait and see on that front. Justin, can we have the next topic, please?
With the Championship being a hotbed for young players, who is the biggest prospect in the Championship right now?
Easy answer for me, Fabio Carvalho, the boy wonder at Fulham. He is one of the best talents I think the Championship has ever seen for my money. The amount of intelligence, reading of the game, and just pure ability that this lad has got for someone who is still a child is just absolutely phenomenal. He can score goals as well, but it is his dribbling and passing which I think really sets him aside from any other player who's his age, really. But as far as number 10s go, he's probably one of the best in the Championship as well.
Quite right. He's a joy to watch. The player I would pick is Jayden Anthony at Bournemouth. I think for a player who has had minimal senior experience in a professional standing, obviously he had a loan spell in non-league. He's taken the Championship very, very well. I think Bournemouth, to some extent, have been over-reliant on him. They've probably used him more than they would have liked, mainly because of him being, you don't want to overuse that type of player, but as I say, they've relied on him, and he's delivered on quite consistently, and he's proven to be one of the most dangerous young players in the division right now.
He's been great. He has been really, really good. Someone I hadn't really known too much about prior to this season, but now that I've seen him, he looks a phenomenal player, and surprised really that he didn't play more last season. Obviously, having Arnaud Danjuma in front of you is a bit of an obstacle, but yeah, Anthony looks real class. And considering when you just look at him, he's a big lad as well, isn't he? As well as being quick, he's got the stature to be a Premier League player in the future. Not as good as Carvalho for my money, but I'll give you that. Anthony is a very worthy answer for that particular question, Justin. Justin, with 4 wins in their last 6, should Blackburn be considered as promotion contenders? What do you think?
This is always an interesting debate I have in my own head. I always get suckered into Blackburn, and I always believe that they will finish in and around the top 6. They will push for the playoffs, and they always let me down. If they're there around April, I will believe that they are promotion contenders. But until then, I cannot pass a judgment on them, mainly because they'll go on a mad run of defeats. It's been very consistent of Mowbray to do that throughout his tenure at Blackburn. So it's one of those cases of I'll see it when I believe it. I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, I get what you mean. They're a bit of a streaky team, aren't they? Really, they're a bit fragile at the back as well, which it would be my 2 main concerns. That they are more than capable of putting runs like this together that they've had in the last 6, but they're also more than capable of going as many games without a win. So, yeah, I won't get too carried away with Blackburn. I think there are many more teams who are better suited to finishing in the top 6 than them this season. So I won't get too carried away. The other issue is that they could very well be torn apart in the second half of the season because Ben Brereton Diaz is out of contract. A load of other key players are also out of contract as well. So will the club look at that and think, should we sell these players in January so we can try and get some money? Who knows? But nonetheless, this could very well be Blackburn's last chance at a good promotion push, couldn't it?
Yeah, you're quite right. It seems that everybody's out of contract at Blackburn other than the fans. Obviously, they're going to be there for a while because they don't get contracted. But nonetheless, yeah, it does seem like a now or never situation. They've got a lot of players playing at the peak at the moment. You look at Lenihan, Ben Brereton Diaz, Gallagher's even performing incredibly well this season, Dolan as well. There'll be clubs sniffing around these players. There are some key players out of contract. January is going to be a key time. If they can keep them and keep consistent, then I don't see why they can't push for the playoffs. But as you say, it does feel like a now or never situation for Rovers.
100%. Justin, can we have the next topic, please?
Does Grant McCann deserve credit after 3 wins in a row?
Yes and no. I think the reason I say no is because a lot of the form that they were showing before, where they were performing very poorly, Hull, that is, was down to Grant McCann and persisting with the formation that quite clearly wasn't working. Playing Josh McGuinness as the lone striker was just not working at all. But McCann continued to persist with it when they had won a couple of games already this season by playing 3 at the back and having Malik Wilkes playing up top with McGuinness. Now he's gone back to that formation, and that is the main reason why they've won 3 in a row, because they're more solid at the back now. They're getting the best out of players like George Honeyman. So yes, he does deserve credit for getting those 3 wins, but the form that they were showing beforehand was also down to Grant McCann. So it's a bit of a, it's one of them, Justin.
Yeah, it shouldn't have taken Grant McCann this long or this far into the season to find out what his best team is, what his best formation is. That should have been wrapped up a lot earlier. And had he have been less stubborn, shall we say, with the formation change, then they might have picked up results more often because they do have a good group of players there, a good group of young players as well. But nonetheless, I do think you've got to credit Grant McCann to some extent because, as I say, he's turned things around for a team that was looking completely hopeless. But a lot of it was self-inflicted earlier on in the season.
I wouldn't say turned around. It's only 3 wins. That could very easily change again in a very short amount of time. And Hull, at various times this season, have shown that they are a bit inexperienced. I think they've got a handful of very, very talented players in this team, players who I think are capable of playing at a higher level than a relegation-threatened championship team. But nonetheless, Grant McCann, well done for getting these 3 wins, but a bigger job is trying to sustain it as the season goes on. And finally, Justin, it's the second tier retro. It's my favourite part of the show where we look back across some of the great championship players, or maybe not so great championship players from the past 15 or so years that the championship has been around. So the question this week is this: who is the most frustrating player in championship history?
It's a very difficult one because you don't tend to remember the frustrating ones for obvious reasons. But one player that sprung to my mind was a loan player for QPR back in 2008, Danny Parejo. He arrived from Real Madrid on loan, and I think everybody expected him to tear the league up. He turned out to be pretty hopeless, and his loan spell was cut short. But he's actually carved a pretty decent career out for himself. I think he's currently at Villarreal, who are a European title winner under what's his name? Completely forgot his name. That's the one under Emery, and he's clearly shown what he's about.
It's all right. You're a championship expert, not a La Liga expert,
Exactly.
so I'll let you off with that one. My most frustrating player, I've gone for a slightly different route. I've gone for Jordan Rhodes, and the reason I say that is because obviously Jordan Rhodes was a goal-scoring machine earlier on in his career. He was scoring goals for fun, and was probably is one of the best strikers the championship has ever seen. But I'm looking at the frustrating side of things and saying that his second half of his career in the championship has been very, very frustrating, disappointing, and underwhelming, because we know what he's capable of, but we haven't seen that player now for quite some time. And it just makes you sad when you look at the amount of goals he's scored over the past 5 or 6 seasons compared to how many he was before. He's probably scored more goals in his best goal scoring season than he has done in his past 5 or 6 seasons, which is the saddest bit of all, Justin. I mean, you're a big Jordan Rhodes fan in itself, aren't you?
I'm still waiting for him to resurrect his career at Huddersfield, but he's just got to shake off an injury. But as you quite rightly say, the last 4 or 5 years have been so frustrating and really disheartening that a player who was once on track to be one of the best strikers in the championship ever has just fallen by the wayside a little bit. But he's still got time on the side. He's still got a decent contract at Huddersfield, and he's still got time to turn it around. I think he can still do it. I'm hanging in there.
I'm not sure he has got time to turn it around, because he is, time is on against him at this point. He is getting on a bit, and I feel like the player that we all know and love has gone, which is the most frustrating thing of all. Hence why I think he's the most frustrating player in championship history. And that wraps it up, ladies and gentlemen, for another episode of the Stopwatch. This is episode 11. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Always very interested to hear what you guys have to say on various things to do with the championship. So drop us a like as well if you've enjoyed, and please subscribe for more content like this. We've been the Second Tier Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Second Tier Pod. You can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We release episodes bi-weekly, so make sure you tune in to us on there as well. And thank you for watching.